Adjustment layers are special layers you can use to adjust certain aspects of your photo. You can use adjustment layers for creative applications, such as altering color, contrast, exposure, and more. Here you can see a number of adjustment layers that I used for this photo. And here is the adjustment layer menu in the layer palette. You can also use adjustment layers for corrective measures, such as adjusting color balance and skin tones. The possibilities are only limited by your imagination. We're going to cover all of them in depth in a series of upcoming tutorials in this course, but for now we're going to discuss the main ones I use and how I use them in a practical application. So a couple of examples I have here of in how I used adjustment layers. First of all, one of the most versatile adjustment layers is the curves adjustment layer. And in this particular photo, I used it numerous times, as you can see here. I use this initial curves layer to deepen the colors and the dimension of the photograph. It enriched the colors and gave us a little more shadow to the overall photo. I used additional adjustment layers here to add highlights to the model's skin. We can see as I turn them off, those highlights disappear. As I turn them on, there they are. And then I used a curve layer to actually adjust the red channels of the image. We're going to get into channels later because that is a whole world in and of itself. In this particular photo, I used a variety of adjustment layers for creative application and for correction. So a good example of one here is the black and white adjustment layer. And sometimes I'll use this to provide the photo depth. In this case, without it on, you can see it's very bright. The colors are oversaturated. I did many of the additional corrections and color adjustments and creative adjustments after I created this black and white adjustment layer and added it to the photo. But as you can see, it gives it a darker tone. There's a couple of other ones here. I use a hue saturation adjustment layer. Let's take a look at her hair, because without it, her hair was coming across a little too gold. I wanted to give the idea that the skin was painted gold and that it didn't affect her hair, when in reality, I did that with a different adjustment layer and it affected her hair. So I wanted to correct that by adding a hue saturation adjustment layer to correct that color. Another one I did, let's take a look at the original curve layer that I used right down here. And I used that also to kind of deepen the shadows, give a little more dark drama to the photo, and actually also apply a matte look to the photo, where I took the bottom lever of the curve layer here and gave it almost a smoky type feel. In this photo, I used a black and white layer again to deepen the shadows of the subject. So if I turn it off, you'll see it's very bright, and with it on, I was able to temper that brightness a little bit and bring it down to an area or to a mood that I was going for. I had a lot more adjustment layers going on in an additional group of layers, but that black and white, that initial black and white adjustment layer kind of gave me a starting point.